our 3 speakers today, and we're going to kick it off with Eugina.
Thank you so very much for having me. So I'm going to pull up the slides and then we'll start. Thank you very much for having me. The book that you see on your screen was written by me last year in 23, and it included the experience not just from me that worked my way up to the CMO, but also from over 30 other female executives in different industries, sports, healthcare, defense, and so on. I saw women in the audience today, and I also saw men. So the presentation applies to both of you, to all of you, because allies in the audience, if you see that a woman is not negotiating for herself, is not talking about her accomplishments, support her, give her a nudge, say her name in the room. About me. So my story started in communist Russia. This is actually me on the left, cute, adorable little girl in 1977. And what I knew early on from my mama is that I can do anything. 30 some years later, 40 years later, I am a C-level executive in one of the most male-dominated industries. There's only 12% of women in telecom in the C-suite. I not only wrote this book, The Unlimited, I also wrote over 150 articles for the telecom industry. And I'm also a speaker on different topics from technology. I've started writing on AI in telecom. And I put a LinkedIn profile link in the chat. Please feel free to connect. Let's collaborate on LinkedIn. Talk about AI, B2B marketing, and leadership, because my goal is, though I might be the first one at the leadership table, I might be the only one at the leadership table in telecom. My promise to the industry is I'm not going to be the last one. So we quickly go through 3 aspects, because how you can create a successful career is you need to take control of your destiny. Don't do it alone. What are we doing here? We are networking. And for many of us in the room, it's your call to action to mentor, sponsor, and make sure you bring the young generation to the table. For many of you in this room, if you want to take something away, there are actually 2 things you'll be able to take away from this presentation. This is the first one. So many women, we question our worth. Am I smart enough? Are they going to listen to me? I'm going to give you some tips how you can fight that imposter syndrome, because you deserve that seat at the table. And to allies in the room, when you see that your female colleague is questioning herself, tell her how amazing she is. Tell her how she's impacting your company. Give her a little pep talk. And by realizing that you deserve a seat at the table, you'll be able to take control of your destiny. So this is the laws from the book. The first part is take control of your destiny. Here today, we're going to talk about the laws that I circled: law of self-awareness, law of authenticity and vulnerability, and the law of negotiation. So on the bottom, you see a framework that you can use. So there are two types of self-awareness: internal, how you see yourself. You need to understand your emotions, and your emotions are driven by your thoughts. So if you're driving on the highway, I love using that example, living for a very long time in Massachusetts and learning how to drive in Massachusetts. If you drive on the highway, and especially before COVID, and someone cuts you off, the first thought that comes in your mind, that one, they are not very nice person. And you start being worked up and your emotions get raveled up. Instead, if you say yourself, maybe they going to the hospital, maybe something happened, you calmed yourself down. Same applies to work environment. If you realize that you get a negative thought and you can start calming yourself down, you will become unlimited. And the external self-awareness is how other people see you. And sometimes it doesn't match. Sometimes you might see yourself as in a certain way. You might have some insecurities, and realizing that is a first step to success, to becoming who you're destined to be. So ask around, ask your friends, ask your family, ask your colleagues how they see you. And you might be surprised how amazingly they see you. Unstoppable, smart, creative, talented. It's hard for many of us to be authentic because in our perceived workplace notions is we need to be a certain be perceived and act and speak certain way. I love pink. If you come to any telecom event or any oil and gas event or any tech event, it's a sea of black. Many women, they unfortunately hide their authentic selves because they want to fit in. My advice to you is if you want to express who you are, talk the way you want to talk. Don't move from, wearing a black jacket to pink jacket with the butterfly. Start 15%. Start being authentic. Talk about your bringing every day, 15%, 15%, 15%. Small steps deliver big results. Authenticity and being vulnerable goes hand in hand. Being authentic is accepting who you are, and being vulnerable is talking about it openly. I talk a lot about me being brought up in communist Russia, very, very poor. Sometimes we didn't have enough food to put on the table. I talk about my abusive marriage and becoming a single parent by choice when my son, he's up there, little one, he's 20 years old, goes to UMass Law. I talk about that because I realize is where I was 20, 40, 50 years ago is not who I am today. It is important for especially women to build our personal brands. And it's across all channels, across LinkedIn, across Medium. You have a lot of knowledge, ladies, to offer. You can create account on Medium and start writing. You can do blogs on LinkedIn. And it's all comes down to planning. You're very good at what you do because you plan. So on the bottom, there is a little calendar for you that you can create for yourself. You do social, you do speaking, and you create articles. I believe in 3 C's when you build a personal brand: content, your content pillars, who you are as a person. So when I describe myself as a technologist with 12 patents, as a B2B marketer, as a leader, as a human. I'm a mom, I'm a dog mom. I have 3 rescues. One of them is right there snoring on the bed. So identify those content pillars for yourself and start developing that brand. Content, consistency, and connection. That's the 3rd C, which one we're going to talk when I give you some tips around networking. So once you know who you are, your strengths, your weaknesses, once you believe in yourself, it's super easy to negotiate. And when you negotiate, don't negotiate just for money. Money is great. I turned around the job when after my layoff in 2022 that was going to pay me twice as much because they wouldn't allow me to publish my book. This book is my gift to many people like me. So I couldn't allow it. So negotiate for money with facts. Create that folder where you put all your accomplishments. Also negotiate for access to meetings, to people, to travel, going to conference, developing yourself. So think outside of the money realm. Negotiate for the whole you. Talk about your accomplishments. And men in the room, if a woman doesn't talk about her accomplishments and you know about them, bring them up. Women, we were taught that talking about our accomplishments is not proper. I grew up in communist Russia. We never talked about our accomplishment. It was everyone was the same. Unlearn. Treat it as a service in 3 ways. Service to your company. You want the company to promote the best person, and it's you. As a service to yourself, you deserve that promotion because you work hard, you deliver the results. And talk about it as a service to people like you. If you see them, you can be them. I always believe that there's a little Eugina watching what I'm doing and saying, yeah, I can write a book. I can get 12 patents. So inspire them. And never do it alone. So the later presentation will go more in mentorship and sponsorship. Here, I want to highlight the difference. Mentors are very important. They will help you to become better versions of yourself. Then they will help you get unlocked. Sponsors, they will help you to get opportunities that you deserve. I wouldn't be here if in 2007, when I asked for the move to marketing manager role, if my boss, the CEO of that company, didn't support me. For 6 years, I worked as his first receptionist, then executive assistant, then chief of staff, and I wanted to do more. So when I walked into his office and I asked for the transfer, he came out of his desk, gave me a big hug, and said he could not hold my ambition. Last year, I mailed him the book and I said, thank you so very much for being my sponsor and everything that you've done for me. And the WhatsApp I got from him said that it was not only the right decision for him and me, but it was also the right decision for the companies, people, and industries that I've impacted. Go find your sponsor now. Prove yourself to them. And when It's your time. Become a sponsor for a person like you. Networking. What are we doing here? Networking. Why did I put my LinkedIn profile in the chat window? To connect with you. Many women, and me included, I don't golf, I don't drink. Yes, I know I'm Russian and I don't drink. Don't drink. So hopefully people are laughing. I can't see emojis. Network your way. To me, network is a service. I was in a room with the lady and I offered her to look at her resume. And Phil, actually, I'm going to give you a shout out. Phil is why I'm here today speaking to you, because we met 2 years ago. We've been collaborating on LinkedIn, and we became LinkedIn collaborators. So go out there and network your way. You don't have to golf. You don't have to go to bars. Find people, like-minded people on LinkedIn, on Medium, or here at this event. Don't be the last one. It's going to take you so many years, or it's taken you so many years. Bring people like you to the table. As Edith Piaf, French singer, said once, send the elevator down. How to stay connected with me? You can visit my website, Eugina Jordan, or connect with me on LinkedIn. And let's build self-awareness. Let's become unlimited. Let's network, and let's ensure that we're not the last one. We can bring more diverse voices, minds, brains to make our different industries much better and stronger, because this is how innovation happens. Thank you very much.
Hello, good morning. Heather, is it okay if I just jump right in? I will take that as a yes. So first of all, I want to thank Eugina. I hadn't seen Eugina's presentation, and I cannot believe how synergistic mine is with hers. It's almost like we had similar paths or advice or mentors, or perhaps we're related in some crazy way, because we certainly have a lot of commonality, and I think you'll see that. So let me start to share my screen and walk you through a little bit of my personal experience here. Let's see, where did it go? It worked before. Let's see. All right, I'm going to take that as you guys can see it, unless somebody voices up and says they cannot. So as noted, I am the VP of Growth and Strategy for Mercury Systems, which is a smaller tier 2, tier 3 aerospace and defense company that I've only been with for about 17 months. I will talk a little bit through the history of the different choices that I've made. And you see on the right here, it's a very poignant picture about filling your cup. It's a very cliche thing that we talk about all the time. Is it half empty? Is it half full? But I want you guys to think throughout my talk about your personal moves in your career. And has it been something that brings you joy or takes away that joy? Is it filling your cup, or is it depleting the cup? Not just about your strengths and weaknesses and where you should go. So that's kind of the undertone of where I'm going. So if I talk to you, let me put this in presentation mode. I apologize. Oh, then it went to the other one.
That looks good. I mean, we could see the other screen, but it's fine too.
Stuck in presenter mode. I apologize. All right, we'll go with this and we'll just roll. Otherwise, There we go. That might actually be easier for the time being. So, okay. So from the start, I am born and raised in Wisconsin. So one would think that I'm used to this New England cold weather. I am not. When you spend 11 years in California, it takes all of that away from you. I did decide to stay in the Midwest. I went to Northwestern for my undergrad. I knew in my heart that I wanted to have a solid basis in engineering, so I chose mechanical, and also recognized that if I had started work, I would have lost the momentum of wanting to go to grad school. I always had machinations of getting a PhD in aerospace and defense, and had selected Stanford University for that program. I was actually chosen to be a Stanford Graduate Fellow, which paid for my entire PhD. All that being said is that I had a speaker come from Northrop Grumman. And I thought, hey, I'm going to go and listen. What do I actually know about aerospace and defense? Do I actually know what I'm coming into, or am I just, thinking that that's where I, again, should go? I was really intrigued with what they had to offer. So I happened to just have this kind of resume that I handed them, and they said, we're really interested for you to take this job. And I'm thinking, wait, I just started my PhD. I've just finished my master's. Is this the direction I want to go? And I thought, well, why not? And the beautiful thing about Stanford is that they have something called stopping out. You can stop out at Stanford for a year, no questions asked. Everything freezes. It literally was an email that said, I want to go explore working in the industry, and I'll be back in a year. And everything just stays on hold. So admittedly, I went straight into classified programs and used the excuse that classified programs, I couldn't tell them why, but I needed another year of stopping out, which they granted me. And then ultimately, because of my time there, what I learned, I started in engineering, but was quickly put into a lead role. And I was like, wow, this is kind of my natural innate ability. I'm liking the engineering. I'm liking getting gritty and figuring out what that is. But it was the leadership and the connectivity between figuring out how to talk to customers and having that interface that really kind of excited me on a day-to-day basis. So I decided to continue in the workforce. And again, because of what I learned at Northrop, just making a personal choice to move back up to Northern California, where I was a little bit happier, I joined another leadership type position in launch systems integration. And I happen to have a really wonderful manager who really spotlighted me and gave me a lot of opportunities. It was that she was at a place in her career, and to Eugina's point about sending the elevator down, she's like, I'm where I want to be. I see potential in you. I want to make sure you're in front of all of the PMRs. You're in front of the VPGM. You're standing in front of 1,000 people during a huge, massive classified space CDR with 3-letter agencies. I mean, that was pivotal and instrumental. So while at Lockheed Martin Space Systems, I took on several different opportunities. And these were a lot of being tapped on the shoulder and said, hey, we want you for an action learning team. We want you to do this systems engineering mid-career rotation where you're going to do 4 different opportunity spaces and learn about ConOps or requirements. And again, you find out what you like and what you don't like. And that's so important to not only define, hey, this is where I want to go, but this is something that's a no for me. And sometimes you test it out, and sometimes you can kind of just know from the other things that bring you joy what you want to say no to. Now, after I had spent about 7 years at Lockheed Martin, my family at the time, we made a decision to move from California to the East Coast to be slightly closer to family. It's a little bit better cost of living, believe it or not, from the San Francisco area to the greater Boston area, although that's increasing as the days go on. When I joined BAE, it was a very different picture. I joined right into a business development, and I'd only had probably a year experience of that in my previous life, but I had enough technical acumen, and the way that BAE does business development was very appropriate for how I also looked at business development to me, which is a balance of understanding how a program needs to work, how the technical needs to work, and what the customer's needs were. So it fit very well. That being said, I also had to pivot from space type programs to missiles, missile seekers. But again, very eye-opening and very in touch with the mission needs. And that was also what sparked joy in me, is that there's a connectivity between the mission and what I was doing. I saw the exact results at whether it's unclassified all the way up to SDI, understanding of what the day-to-day work I did and how it had its outcome. And I want to make sure that that point is heard, because it's very often, if we feel disconnected about where our work is going, it's very easy to tap out mentally or not feel fulfilled. So you have to find that connection point, whatever it might be, whatever tech industry you are, so that you feel like you're having that impact. You'll see as I transition through the curve of BAE Systems, this line item here, I took on many different jobs. Again, I had the opportunity to go back into a PM role and figure out what that was like at BAE, and build up those chops again and go back to what I was very familiar with, which was classified space. And, that was one of those moments where I saw BD and PM align. And if I do have time, I'll give you an example. If not, you can certainly reach out and I can talk to you about that. But what I will say is that that period of my life was where I was like, wow, my best experience as BD was when I was a PM. And so there's something to be said about taking an opportunity, whether it's in engineering, and bringing it to your next new role. They are not bifurcated, stovepiped things that you just put in the past. They're very intertwined. About 5 years into my role at BAE Systems, I was selected for the executive leadership program, which was coupled with an international INSEAD MBA program. Now, I didn't actually get the MBA, but I got kind of the short version of it. And what that taught me was the power of networking within your peer stacked across the board. BAE has, 80,000 plus employees, and to be able to have a network that went across the country was so instrumental in how I could reach out and tap into what they knew, how they could help me, experiences that they might had. And, after that, I had a little bit of an ebb, if you will, instead of the flow of what was happening. And I have a really great mentor that said, take time in the ebb, because you never know when you're going to be tapped on the shoulder for something that's greater, and be prepared for it. You'll be prepared for that moment by enjoying the ebb, taking some training, doing all of that. And lo and behold, January of 2020, I was selected to be the senior director for a business area called Precision Strike. It was a newly formed business area, about $1 billion, $1 to $1.5 billion in revenue. And I had a newly formed 25-person team, all geographically dispersed. It was, what am I doing? Am I ready for this? And to Eugina's point about the imposter syndrome, is that you can't let that take hold. I knew the things that brought me joy. It was leadership. It was leading teams. But then, you know what? COVID hit. COVID hit 6 weeks after I joined this team. All my machinations of being this certain type of leader and going out and visiting all of the sites and getting this intimacy and traveling and having my team travel just kind of came to a halt. And if anybody that's in the BD area knows that that's how we really kind of mark ourselves, as time spent in Marriott and days on the road, if you will. So I had to really think about my leadership style and how I could nurture and focus and provide value and that connectivity to that end goal, what that looked like. So a very valuable experience. I was then actually headhunted into a Mercury role. I was really, really happy at BAE Systems. It's a phenomenal company. But one thing I hadn't experienced was what it was like to work as a tier 3. And I think that this has been critically important for me to understand what it's like to be in the supply chain, especially now in microelectronics, where that's all we heard, particularly in COVID. And also what that looks like when people aren't as instantiated in the policies and the bureaucracy sometimes that we experience at some of the larger tiers. But what that could mean is you can look at it as a challenge or a deficiency, or you could look at it as, wow, I get to move the needle here. I get to do something that nobody else has done and bring to bear everything that I've learned. I'm going to quickly move to the right before I get to my next chart, and then I want to hand it over to Cara. I don't have work-life balance here, and there's a reason why. It's because balance is very difficult anytime. It implies that it's equal. So when I say work-life integration, it's because I do bring my whole self to work. I talk about my children. I talk about the fact that I'm a single mom. I talk about my passions. You see my two, they're actually my blind foster fails up in the right-hand corner. I talk about the fact that I love reading books and travel. And then, of course, I've got two beautiful young children, 12 and 8, that are my whole heart. And I can't negate that part of me. And I don't want to feel that I have to push that down, because what I want to show the next generation of women is that you can be a mom, you can be present, you can do these things and still be in a very high powered position at any company you choose to go to. But we have to make sure that that's normalized and that that's something that's voiced and not said, oh, I have to leave work. I make it very clear why I have to leave work early that day and that the job will still get done. I want to hit my last slide to allow Cara some time. This is a little bit skewed to the right. So let me go. We'll work with this. So this is something that I did in a recent reflection. And again, Eugina kind of noted this a few times, is to look back at what you're doing. What I want to focus on is the bottom part of that and how I see myself a leader and what I've learned from this experience. So how I see my self as a leader is a transparent leader. And that's what this chess piece over here is, that this one here indicates that I want to lead with what I know. I'm an open book. I tell you everything that I can so that you're empowered to know just as much as I am, unless I'm told I can't. I'm an integrated leader, in some kinds democratic, and maybe at times a little bit too nice. I've been told that, which is kind of funny because maybe my personal life or my children would not agree with that sentiment. And then I also look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and I really do focus on what the people need. How others see me as a leader and why I know this is because I've done about 10 360s, is transparent, as you can see in the picture, that I'm globally networked, that I bring others with me, and then I'm actually a very positive thinker. Again, I don't know if my children would think that, but what's the culmination of that do? It brings me to what my potential impact is to bring back to the company, is that I have to have the trust of my team, which is with the linkage here. I have to have that mission connectivity. And for my specific role as business development, I have to constantly be thinking about how I left shift, bring in leads, and ultimately provide for the shareholder. And that is usually results in the stock price. I actually apologize. I have one more slide and I want to give some quick tips. And it goes back to what I said at the beginning, as knowing your strengths and weaknesses. That's your resume. But when you think about it, think about each strength and does it actually bring you joy? You might be fantastic at quality, but does it bring you joy? Think about that, or what is taking away, because that's what's ultimately going to drive you and showcase your talents. Know your brand. Love that Eugina said that in 3 words or phrases, and others should be able to repeat those. They should be common, maybe within, a few plus or minus. I spoke about the EBS. Volunteer to present and brief if you're not selected, because a known voice and face is the one that gets attention. Take advantage of those action learning teams. Never say it's not my job. Instead say, that's interesting. How can I assist in that? Tell me more about what this entails. Don't job hop. If you looked at my career writ large, you saw that I did a lot of things, but I spent a good amount of time in there, unless they were actual rotational time constrained opportunities. Build your network. Manage both up and down. Don't just always be thinking about how you're looking to the executives and the C-suite, but look about how you're bringing up your team, your peers, the people that you mentor. And then I love what Eugina said too about sitting at the table. You know what? Sit at that executive table. If there is a round table, all of the men are going to go to that table and take their seat. You go first and take that seat. If you are invited to the meeting, you have a place at that table. I'm going to conclude there to allow for Cara to brief, but thank you for your time today. And I'm always available to reach out and speak to you for a later talk. Thank you so much.
Very nice job, Shanna and Eugina. So these are some tough women to follow. Let me get my presentation up and we will get started. Okay. I'm going to hope that this is working. Yeah, please come off mute if there's an issue. So I loved listening to Eugina and Shanna, and I hope that this presentation, I have about 5 or 6 slides, kind of can maybe tie some of this together and then help you really realize, like, how can you hone some of these lessons learned that Shannon and Eugina have shared with us, right? And how I want to do that today is really chatting about some key relationships in the workplace that can help you do the things that the other women in this forum have shared with us today. And so those relationships are mentorship, championship, and sponsorship. Okay, so, a little bit about me, and this will hopefully tie into the other slides that I wanted to highlight too is, it's these key relationships, right? Mentorship, sponsorship, or championship are going to help you and allow you to do some of the things that then turn into these lovely bios, right? Around gaining experience, whether it's at different companies, different functions, different roles, and in different industries, right? And so having some key relationships and building that network allows for those opportunities that otherwise may not be available to you, right? So as you can see, Eugina and Shanna shared a lot about different companies, different groups, different skill sets that they utilize throughout their career. And so what I would like to do is focus on how key relationships through mentoring and sponsorship can help you achieve that, and also how you can actually really build a culture and some really strong teams that you can utilize as a leader to drive your organization forward. And so anyway, I have had an opportunity to have some really key mentors that have been instrumental in helping me throughout my career and helping me really navigate being a mother and a wife through those changes and those new roles, right? So that's why I wanted to share a little bit about myself as well. I did add in a nice photo. We were just in Disney over Florida with the 3 kids and had a great time. And, having a network of strong women that say, hey, go on vacation and take the time away from work has been another one of those key benefits of having some key relationships throughout my career that helped me make sure that I am doing that work-life integration as well. Okay, next slide. Okay, so objective, right? Help you achieve your goals by understanding and utilizing these 3 key types of relationships, right? So there are some really key differences between mentorship and having a champion or a sponsor and being a sponsor, right? If you are a leader in your organization and your company or you yourself are not utilizing these relationships, I urge you to consider putting some programs in place to help you bring up your organization and have a really strong workforce of engaged employees to help you achieve your mission, right? So how do you create and define them for yourself, for your company, for others, how to make them effective? And then I do have a couple other things to keep in mind that I do think will tie in with the other presentations. So, and I did add a funny little meme in. It says, your advice is very important to me. So I wrote down exactly what I want you to say. And that spoke to me because Eugina mentioned it, right? Having a mentor, being someone's champion or sponsor comes with vulnerability. It comes with being open. And it really is a key element to making these relationships fruitful across the board. So, although we all know that that's not always easy to do. Okay, so I'm watching my timer here. Okay, good. So mentorship, I think this is, mentors have been around for forever. I think that most companies or programs, school, right, at universities, they have some type of mentorship program, right? And so people are very familiar with it. You have an advisor, someone might be even coaching or training within that mentor relationship. It can be an internal relationship, it can be external to your job, but really the mentor relationship is focused on that knowledge and experience sharing, right? But it can be a great tool for any person on both sides of the relationship, because it can offer many different things, right? It can help new employees or junior employees navigate your organization and understand how to work within it. They can provide sound advice on how to approach a problem or task at hand. They can be a sounding board. They can be a catalyst, and they can help you build your confidence, right? So the key things that I have found to have really fruitful mentor relationships, right, is if you are the mentee, right, make sure that you're defining your goals, right? As Shanna mentioned in her speech about navigating different roles and in different functions, right? Understand what brings you value and joy, and then how do you want to put that to work, right? Or do you need assistance with making some strides in the organization so that you can better showcase those skills? So having a framework for mentoring, I have found to be, even if it's an informal relationship, really key, right? So understand, right, what the mentee is seeking, understand from the mentor perspective if you have goals that you're trying to achieve through the relationship as well. And I will touch on that in a minute. If you are saying, okay, well, I'd love a mentor, but I don't really know what to go ask and say, I think I say starting with the what, why, because, and how is a great way to start a conversation, right? What, I would like a new position within the organization. Why, right? I'm feeling like I'm ready for that next step of growth. Because, and then how, right? So when we get to the how with mentoring, you can easily start to gain and seek that advice that can help you navigate it, right? And on the flip side, right, for the mentor, this is so key because you are going to have people in your group or your organization that are doing really great work. As Eugina said, they're showing up every day, they're getting the job done, but they could still be challenged to understand and find ways to grow, right? So understanding how you can engage with your mentees, and seek to really understand what they want, right? Maybe finding their joy or where they want to contribute, is really important, I think, to building a really strong team, right? So, on both sides, be clear with what you're hoping to achieve from the relationship. And so, for the mentee, make sure that you're being clear with your mentor what you want to get out of it. Hey, I could use you as a sounding board on this one issue I'm facing, or I would love to understand how to just naturally have some career progression over the next 10 years, right? But come and set the stage, right? That's very key. And on the mentor side, right, I know for me personally, the value I get from mentoring really comes to getting that opportunity to really build relationships with your team and your organization, right? So that's always like my number one, goal when I'm meeting with folks. But the other, items I get that really help me and where I really enjoy the mentor relationship is it really gives me valuable insight into the organization I'm in front of and running, and how far is my message getting, right? Am I influencing the right people at the right levels? And how do I help and shape and hone that messaging, right? So it is a way for you to also share with others your thought and what you want to do within your group or organization that can really help build that allegiance and alliance as well. So it can be tough to navigate some of these. Like I said, it does come with vulnerability, but I find it so fruitful. And I always find too that if both parties are open to, what type of mentorship, and maybe it's a consistent meeting, maybe it's a tag up every once in a while, engage in that, and it will add value tenfold throughout. So, and a key note here, mentorship. I know when I was junior, I had a mentor, and that relationship lasted 8 solid years. And let me tell you, she was a great sounding board. She was a champion as well, which I'll get into in the next slide. But she also really helped me and challenged me on what I was thinking in my thought process, and gave me real insights into our organization at the time and how it functioned. And I found that that was really instrumental in me growing as a leader at BAE Systems. So, okay. Okay, so we talked about mentorship. Now we're going to talk about championship and sponsorship. So I found that, studies started coming out years ago that kind of said, hey, listen, mentoring is great, but it's not often enough, right? You're sharing advice, but you're not helping someone get to that table, as Eugina mentioned, right? So this idea of championship, and now we really talk about more sponsorship, has really come into play. And I've seen it quite a bit over the past 5 years as a tool that is being utilized in organizations to help create key relationships that will help people have more visibility and create opportunities. So different, articles, thoughts on the difference between championship and sponsorship. Some people see them as one and the same. So I'm going to share a little bit. This is a little bit of my interpretation of how you can utilize these relationships and what they mean. But when we talk about championship, that is someone that they can open up opportunities for you. They can create visibility, but they may or may not be tied to your success, right? So championship, you're a champion, you're championing someone. It's kind of, it is what they say it is, right? So an example could be someone speaking up for you if there's a new opportunity or a new, initiative for someone. If someone is championing you, they might say, hey, you know what, you should really think about Eugina for this, or you should think about Shanna, or Bob or Joe. They would be great in the role. But whether you then get the role or are successful in it, they may not be tied to that success, right? So they're willing to promote you, to recommend you for different assignments, right? But they don't always have, that true skin in the game, or it is really not their assigned job to ensure that you are getting those opportunities and are successful within them, right? So for me, that is championship. So we often sometimes have our mentors that will be champions for us. If they're strong relationships, we could have leaders within our organization that are willing to be champions. But in general, they are promoting your name, and then you are left to achieve that success. They are not always held accountable for helping you see that through, right? And then sponsorship, I really see that as someone is your sponsor, right? If you're the individual, if you're the sponsoree, they are really responsible for helping you not only, be thought of for opportunities, but get those opportunities, get that advancement, help influence other high-level leadership, right? So maybe a sponsor isn't someone just within your direct chain of command, but a more senior leader that is at meetings that you don't have access to yet. And they can really help you overcome barriers to promotion, right? And they are tied to your success, right? So they could be within your organization. They don't necessarily have to be, but they do have some accountability to helping you achieve those goals and growth within the career, right? So that's how I differentiate. Like I said, I've seen, especially doing a little bit more research for these couple slides in this presentation, I do see companies navigating away from this championship and going towards sponsorship. And I do believe that a lot of that, and I think, Shanna and Eugina touched on it, is it's because what they have seen is that, you really do want leaders that are really tying your success to theirs and are really, seeing it as their responsibility to help you grow and make sure you have a seat at the table. And, Eugina used the term, I took a couple notes, being an ally, right? So that is really making sure that you're speaking up for someone else that is doing good work that deserves to be recognized, right? Typically, I would put that in the championship. But I think we've seen too that doesn't always work in every case, or it is not seen as a key item. So I think sponsorship seems to be, becoming more of the key relationship tool in organizations to help ensure that those folks that are doing a great job and are ready to advance are getting those opportunities. So those are the key differentiators, right? When we come in, and this is why, mentorship has a lot of value and is a key relationship. But when you are attempting to grow in your career, being a champion, being a sponsor, if you're in a leadership position, is key for your team. And then having champions and sponsorship, I think, is key in navigating your own career path and making those strides. So getting a little tactical, right? You can turn those mentor relationships when they are strong into championship and sponsorship, but it is also key for you to understand when you have a mentor versus a champion or sponsor, and that you do really need both to be successful, right? That's kind of a bold statement. But I do think that a lot of the research has shown how key it is to have people that are championing you and sponsoring you within your organization to achieve the growth and promotion path and being able to have the impact that you want to have. And I do have a couple quotes. I don't know if I'm out of time. I heard something, so I'll be really quick. Champions need to be at a higher level of leadership. That's really key. And then finding people that are willing to go to bat for you, right? So I guess my thought to you guys is, if you don't have this, go back in your organization and say, who do you have a strong relationship that's at the right level that could champion you or sponsor you to help you achieve your goals? And I know we're out of time. Let's see. So other key concepts, and I think, Shanna, you mentioned this: keep your mentors and your champions and your managers informed and meet with them regularly. That's very key to showcasing what you're bringing to the table every day. So that's another one. And then my last slide is, and this I think ties in nicely, is this is really about building your brand, right? These relationships can help you build your brand. They can help you achieve your goals. And the key thing too is, when you get to a leadership position, make sure that you're paying it forward, because they are instrumental, and you gain value across the board when you implement these relationships within your organization and for yourself as someone navigating their career. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Cara, and thank you, Eugina and Shanna. This was wonderful. You all had such great insight.